Hey YouTube, Happy New Year. New year, new language goals, I'm sure. I know I've got mine. Let me know what yours are in the comments below and what language you are studying. With that being said, my name is Neon. I'm a native English speaker who is learning Spanish. And in this video, I'm going to be breaking down kind of what I have planned for this year, what my goals are. And it's something that I've been thinking about quite a bit for the past couple of weeks. So if you see me looking down, checking my phone, it's because I have a bunch of notes here. I want to make sure I convey everything that I want to convey. If there's something I miss, then check out the Spanish version of this video on my other channel, Neon en Español, because there I upload videos, just me talking kind of about whatever, but as for now, it's mostly language learning related stuff, just to kind of practice my Spanish. There's people that enjoy my videos, but they don't speak Spanish. So I decided, why not separate the two and, make two versions? Because why not? Why not, right? I've got the time. But with that being said, the first goal here that I have is to switch Spanish from just being an activity to kind of being more of my default mode. I want to try thinking in Spanish as much as possible. And I want to speak Spanish more with the people that I know in real life that already speak Spanish. I tried something different today. I spoke with my mom in Spanish. She is a Spanish speaker. She's from Mexico. I didn't grow up speaking Spanish with her. That's a different story that I've kind of covered before in some of my other videos. But it felt really weird, but also fun at the same time. If you haven't tried speaking with someone who you've always spoken to in one language in a different language, then give it a shot and you'll know what I'm talking about. Okay. It feels incredibly odd, almost like you're speaking with a completely different person. But that's just something that I've got to get used to if I want to make this change. So that's the first one. All right. Kind of just switching Spanish to be my default. And the second goal I have here is speed, spontaneity, and mental freedom. Now, you might be asking, what the hell is that? So basically, my main issue with Spanish or with speaking Spanish is that in groups, I often can't respond fast enough. I think it's more of like I over-monitor myself and I get really nervous and I feel a lot of pressure. But the point is, I can't respond as fast as I would like when they're speaking really quickly amongst each other, like native speakers, right? So that's something I want to develop, my speed, my response speed, and like just saying like random things, cracking jokes, and just not having to, I guess, dedicate so much mental energy to speaking in the language, right? I just want it to become more of a natural, feeling, right? So yeah, like I don't really know what I can do for that except for just like speaking more. I do have some things kind of planned. Like, I think I might be doing like 10 to 15 minute recordings of myself, just speaking about a topic as much as I can, as fast as I can, without stopping, and just trying to get used to that feeling, I guess, right? So yeah, that's that one. The third one that I have here is self-monitoring, nerves, and identity. So that's kind of what I touched on a little bit earlier. I often monitor myself a little bit too much. Say hi to my cat, everyone. She just jumped up. Anyways, self-monitoring, nerves, and identity. I feel like my main issue is confidence at this point and just like getting in my own head. When I feel very comfortable and at ease with the person I'm talking to, I speak really well. Okay. Like much better than I do, obviously, I guess when I'm nervous. Right. But yeah, that's one thing. Just, if you've ever heard me speak, then you might have noticed that I do this quite frequently where I'll say something in Spanish and then immediately like stumble and self-correct in the moment instead of just finishing the thought and then correcting myself at the end or just recognizing that I messed up and moving on. And ironically, that draws more attention to the errors that I make than if I had just kept going. So that's one thing that I want to work on. Another thing is like feeling less pressure when speaking with strangers. Again, I think this is just something that I have to do more to get used to it. It's kind of like just socializing in general. If it's not something that you really do, then you need to train that muscle, get it stronger, and then next thing you know, you'll be fine. So there's that. And then also something that I think is kind of funny is like, this is like tangentially related, but when I speak Spanish with strangers, because I'm so nervous, but like I have a good accent or like good pronunciation, I often wonder if they perceive me as just like a really nervous or like timid native speaker, or if they recognize that I'm a learner. Because I've gotten comments from people that I've like just met and like, oh, I thought you were a native speaker. And I'm like, I always respond like, hey, you haven't heard me speak long enough. And that's why you think that. But yeah, I just need to like I said, really develop more of that confidence. The next thing here is just kind of like seeking out more real world interactions. I just bought a hat. It hasn't shipped yet. When it gets here, I'll show it to you guys. But I just bought a hat that says Español, porfa, to like indicate to people like, hey, please speak Spanish to me. I know Spanish, and I'm eager to speak it with you. Every time I go to the Mexican supermarket, they default to English. Like, I get it. I'm not blaming them. But it is a little bit like, not frustrating, but more so like, dang, like, you know, it would be nice if they tried speaking to me in Spanish, but, you know, I get it. All right. It's no biggie. So yeah, that hat, seeking out more real world interactions in Spanish. And then, like I mentioned kind of earlier, speaking more in Spanish with the people I already know. So my mom, my friends, people like that. The next goal that I have is refining my grammar. So there are still like little grammar errors that I make. I often recognize these errors as I make them, but I want to kind of cut down on the number of instances where I make those mistakes, right? I think typically my errors still tend to be with the subjunctive. I've got a pretty good grasp on it. I think this is something that reading is really going to help with. And that's kind of one of my other goals I'll talk about in a bit. But just kind of refining my grammar. I've started taking classes again. I'm working with a tutor who's kind of identifying, I guess, my weak spots. And then we're going, you know, down the list and kind of just trying to iron those out so that, you know, those errors happen less. And then also I want to do some chorusing. A lot of people ask me like, hey, Neon, like how did you get to sound like you do in Spanish? Unfortunately, I didn't really do much. I just watched a ton of content from Mexico and watched like one video on pronunciation. So I want to see how far I can push my Spanish accent. So I mentioned this, I think, in one of my other recent videos. I recently started doing chorusing. I had to take a break for like 2 weeks or so just because my throat was really hurting. I think I need to get used to kind of speaking more like in a proper manner, like more with my diaphragm and less with my throat. And then just like making sure I have some like nice teas on hand, because I was aiming for like 45 minutes of chorusing a day, and you're trying like all these new sounds or sounds that you're not like, you know, as used to compared to your native language. So that's going to put a little bit of a toll on your vocal cords. Yeah. So the next one is, my input goals. So my baseline goal for reading is 1.5 million words. To date, I've read about 700,000 words, at least for like words that or like articles and books that I finished. I am like 3/4 of the way through La Resistencia de Laura Gallego. She's like a Spanish author. It's a fantasy series. I think it's pretty good. I've been limiting how much like YouTube and screen time and just like stuff that I do in general. Like I'm still getting input, but I'm being a little bit more, I guess, conscientious of when I'm doing that input and making sure that I give myself downtime to just kind of relax, be present, and enjoy a little bit of silence. And also, as far as YouTube goes, I've been limiting myself to watching it on the TV, watching TV series a little bit more, and not always having like my phone quite on me. And I think that's really helped push me to read more, because now I really only have like two options, right? Because I limit myself to like one TV show a day, one video. So it's either listen to podcasts like a radio and just sit there, or read. So that's that. Obviously, I'm going to pick reading because that's a little bit more fun. And just within the past couple of days, I think I've read like 7 or 8 hours, which is a lot of reading for me, given that I was doing 0 before. So I think 1.5 million words is very doable, as long as I manage to maintain this habit. And then my push goal will be 3 million words. I think that is doable as well. We'll see what happens. It's a little bit difficult to predict exactly how the year is going to go, but those are my 2 reading goals. I'm pretty sure reading is going to help a lot with refining my grammar. There's a lot of like little things that I've noticed that I haven't quite noticed before, or that I hadn't quite noticed before with just listening. So I'm excited for that. We'll see what happens. At the end of the year, if I hit my push goal, then that would be like 3.7 million words, which would put me at a really good level. It's funny because I've already like noticed that there are some vocabulary words that I've picked up just from this book alone, like tenderle la mano, which is like to like offer your hand, right? Which that's not like a word I think that I really knew before this. So I'm very excited for reading more. And if it's not something that you're doing, you should do it as well. All right. Make sure you get out there reading. There's been studies done about extensive reading that basically say like, hey, with just 10 minutes a day, you can significantly increase your foreign language skill. So do that. All right. At least 10 minutes, whether it be a news article or a chapter of a book. Just give it a shot. All right. See what happens. And then as far as like total input and like Spanish practice time goes, I'm aiming for 30,300 hours total of Spanish. So this includes whatever chorusing time I do, conversation practice, listening to podcasts, watching TV, basically everything but reading. Reading I track with words read, not by time, just because it's a little bit easier for me. So yeah, that's about, I think, 500 to 600 hours in a year. So like 90 minutes a day, give or take a little bit. Very doable. But the reason why I kind of set my goal a little bit lower than I have done in the past is because I want to dedicate more time to reading. And like I said, I don't track that by time. I track it by words read. So if I'm doing like an hour of reading a day plus an hour and a half of listening and speaking and chorusing or whatever, that's going to be a lot of time. All right. So those are my input goals. The next one that I have here is like speaking systems and output commitments. I want to basically make speaking unavoidable. Ideally, I'm speaking at least 60 minutes 3 times a week. For now, I'm achieving that through my tutoring sessions. But if possible, I would like to increase that by like speaking with friends, speaking just out and about. And it's something that I've really not done much of in 2025, just because I never felt like it. I think this has to kind of go, or this goes in hand with like being a little bit overstimulated from input and like having too many good options available that don't involve interacting with people. Now that I've kind of limited how much YouTube I'm doing, I feel like I'm a little bit more in the mood, like more frequently, to like hop on Discord and speak to people. We'll see if that's a trend that continues in the long term, but that's something that I want to work on a little bit. Speaking basically every day if possible. If not, 3, 4, 5 days a week, I'll be pretty happy with that. Let's see. Also, Spanish. Let's see. Oh yeah, Spanish plus like YouTube. Okay, so like making videos for my Spanish channel. My goal for that is going to be 1 video a week. I think for the most part, I'm going to aim for kind of like a more laid back, just kind of record and upload style. That way there's not too much pressure time wise and effort wise. The main focus is just practicing and then getting that content out there. So yeah, 1 video a week. And then that will also kind of like help you guys better follow my progress, because up until now I upload like a speaking progress update maybe every couple 100 hours. So for those of you that are really interested, you'll be able to see my speaking month to month, week to week, week to week, not day to day, because I don't plan to upload that often. So yeah, that's kind of what I have. And then also for this channel as well, I'm not gonna like aim for 1 video a week, but if there's a topic that happens to overlap with something that I talk about on the Spanish channel, then I'll make an English version of that video as well. And then let's see, the next one is like kind of what 2026 is not gonna be about. All right, so like I want to let go a little bit more. Like I mentioned, I think I self-monitor too much. I hold myself to too high of a standard when it comes to speaking Spanish and making errors and things like that. So I just want to relax and have fun with it, have as much fun with it as possible, and not always be in my head and too stressed about like what other people might think. Because like I always feel like native speakers are going to be like, oh man, like this guy, he speaks poorly, he's not speaking great. But then I always mention like, hey, like I'm a learner, and they're like, dude, you're doing fine, you're doing awesome, all right, like don't worry. So I think I just need to remind myself a little bit more of that. And then my goal is to speak, or my end goal is for my Spanish to be as good or nearly as good as my English. But I recognize that that's going to take quite a lot of practice. So just kind of like also being very conscientious of that in 2026, that anytime I stumble, anytime I feel like there's a setback, just like remembering that I am progressing and I'm going to get there eventually. A lot of these really, really, really great Spanish second language speakers on YouTube, or like that I've met in person, have been speaking Spanish for at least 5 years, or like they started in their teens. So I still have quite a bit of time ahead of me to get to that same point. I really only started in like August. So yeah, I started in like August 2022. That's when I started using Dreaming Spanish a little bit. And then in January 2023 is when I really got serious. I was doing like an hour, 3 hours a day type thing. So at this point, it's only been like 2 or 3 years, like 3 years and a couple months, something like that. So just being a little bit more, I guess, I don't know if forgiving is the word, but I guess patient. That might be a better way to put it. So my final one here is like integration, Right. I want to like I said, integrate Spanish very deeply into my life and basically do as much as I do or as much as possible in Spanish. Like, I would love to get to the point where my Spanish is so good, or at least I don't stutter every time I make an error, that like I can just go out into the world and speak Spanish by default. And then if that person doesn't speak Spanish, then switch to English instead of defaulting in English everywhere. Because there are so many people where I live that speak Spanish and English, but they default to English just because that's kind of the norm. It's, like I said, especially given how I look. So that's kind of like my end point, or like the end goal that I want to achieve. Something that I think would be really fun and also kind of help spread awareness, like by I guess like showing like hey, there's a lot of people that speak Spanish and you might want to learn it, or at the very least like it would be a way for you to better be able to connect, right? Like just kind of like making people more aware of like language learning and motivating them a little bit more, even if that's just through these like small daily interactions where it's like, oh man, I wish I could have spoken to him in Spanish, type of thing, you know? So with that being said, those are my goals for 2026. I hope that you guys have found them interesting, and that, I don't know, hopefully maybe they've inspired you, and kind of like how you decide to set up your goals for this year. Like I said, if you guys are studying another language, let me know in the comments what your goals are, what language you're studying, kind of where you're at, and like where you want to end up, whether it be at the end of this year or like long term. And yeah, with that being said, if you guys enjoyed this video and you are eager to keep up with my progress or kind of hear whatever advice I have to give regarding language learning, hit that subscribe button, leave a like on this video. That would help me out quite a bit as well. And yeah, with that being said, I've got some exciting stuff coming up in the next couple months for you guys, and I will see you next time. Ciao.